I took care of plate tectonics class, but we wrote a couple papers and did some class discussion about certain hot topics in geology. We talked about mantle plumes, which was kind of interesting, and whether or not they exist. Rock deformation was also an interesting class. We did a sort of a week-long experiment determining the strain rate of ice under certain stresses. So it was pretty lab intensive. And then just the other geology class had a number of field trips, and it was a great opportunity for someone without a car, which I didn't have, to go out and see some pretty neat places and cool geologic outcrops.
There's the coastal geomorphology class that I took, which was studying the coasts of Brazil and talking about a lot of those processes that shape them and what affects them, real world examples of things gone right or gone wrong in that field. And then we had a really cool field work at the end of the class where, like I said, we went to, I think, 5 different beaches throughout the state over like a 3-day overnight field work. We got to take samples from all those beaches, bring them back to the lab and analyze those, draw up some graphs and figures for that, and then ultimately write a report on everything that we kind of got out of that. And then also I had that AutoCAD class, which can be helpful for some things, especially working with LiDAR data. It's usually done through CAD, and that's something that we do a lot. But it was just another resource, another program that we're not really trained on here that's used a lot in the real world.
I'd say they were different. I think there's a tendency to think that they're easier because the grading scale is a little bit different. In New Zealand, it works out as 50% is passing, that's like a C, and then there's just a different system. But it all kind of works out the same. People just grade a bit differently.
Honestly, for me, they were pretty hard. The coastal geomorphology one was pretty close to what I do here, so that wasn't too far out. But everything else was through the School of Engineering, and I'm not in the School of Engineering here, and I was doing it all in Portuguese. So it's definitely a lot to adjust to. I'm really glad that I did, because it really made me step out of my comfort zone and really get better about going out and learning things on my own and getting my Portuguese a lot stronger.
I'd say depending on the class, it was easy. If you get them approved beforehand, the Earth Science Department's really nice about it. I mean, it's just a matter of reminding your advisor that you got it approved, and they sort of transfer everything over for you.
I managed to land an internship at a civil engineering consulting firm in Denver this past summer, and a lot of their biggest clients are mines in Brazil. So there's lots of geotechnical reports that would be coming out of there in Portuguese. So they needed someone who understood Portuguese, and specifically that kind of terminology, and also someone who knew how to use AutoCAD, because that's usually what they use for that, and that's a class I was taking there. So kind of the combination of the geotechnical class, the AutoCAD class, and doing it all in Portuguese was 3 pretty important factors to landing that internship. And it was a really good learning experience for me, and it paid really well.
The biggest thing that anybody does in New Zealand really is hikes and outdoor stuff.
There's definitely a lot of nightlife in Rio. There was a whole kind of calendar for what there was and there's the different parts of the town that had different things going on. And then obviously there's the beaches, which is where we spent a lot of our time, day or night.
One of the things we did was kind of travel through the Otago sedimentary system. So we drove around, and the bedding is it's not horizontal, so you can kind of drive through these different rock layers. That was super interesting. And also just, I think, some of the coolest geological things that I saw were things that I did on my own. We did a hike around a rhyolitic volcano, which was really cool, because I've never seen rhyolite before. And then where I was has the Otago schist, which is a pretty well-studied layer of rock, and then also the volcanics throughout the North Island, and that sort of thing is just really interesting. Give yourself the option when you sign up of extending, because I think a lot of people think they're not going to want to be there for more than a semester, and then change their mind.
Save money for it, not because Brazil is expensive, but because as soon as you're there, you want to go everywhere and do everything, and it does add up eventually. It's also still totally doable on a budget.
Anyone in the earth science department is kind of always looking at the local geology and that sort of thing, and it's just always cool to get a different perspective. I kind of just wanted to challenge myself a little bit and spend a lot of time in a new place, and I didn't want to feel like too much like a tourist. I wanted to feel like a student at the university and like I lived there.